Yes, welcome back, Eric Bishop. Third time, your third timer. I wish I had like a special third timers jacket or gold watch or something for people to have. If I ever get in person, I think there will be some sort of gift with people that have been here multiple times. Welcome back.
I will say this watch was from you, and my company gave it to me as my 20-year watch, but we can say that's from you for my third time. So
Oh wow, you were with a company for 20 years?
I'm still with the company. Yes, 20.
Oh wow.
That's one of those things in life that's so strange because I started with a title insurance company back in 2004, living in Richmond, Virginia. And if you had asked me at the time, first of all, what title insurance was, I wouldn't have known what the answer was. And then, hey, you
Isn't that
think
when you buy the title for your house if the sale goes wrong or something? Like I feel like I had to do that when I bought my house.
Yeah, so the explanation I got from the guy that hired me was the best explanation ever, and it really helped solidify it for me. So life insurance you are required or you get because you want to insure what's going to happen in the future. Title insurance insures what happened in the past. So a good example would be, say you bought your house and you buy it in good faith. A year later, you're sitting there and someone starts banging on the front door and they're like, "Hey, you owe me $7,000 for that roof," and you're like, I didn't change the roof. Like, no, 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 the previous owner did, and they didn't pay for it, and
Oh, it's like there
I
was a
had a
lien
lien
on
on
your
the
house?
house,
Okay. Yeah.
and now you have to pay it, and then you go to the title insurance company and you go, "Hey guys, guess what? $7,000 roof job didn't get paid for, and you should have found that when you did the title search."
Ah,
So it
there's
does
so
other
many
things
weird
as well, but
loopholes and rules and shit like that. Like, what is this whole thing with squatting now, too? Like, I'm seeing these people are just like people go on vacation and then somebody moves into their house and they're like, they come back and the locks are changed and they're like, and the people are like, yeah, we're living here now. And they're like, the cops don't do anything. It's like, I think it's going on more so in New York or something.
yeah.
I don't know. They have some weird rules. I think in Arizona we have like a 2-day rule, like, and then you got to get the fuck out. Like, they don't fuck around here.
Yeah, I live in the South, and if people, I think, squat in houses down here, they die a fiery death by fiery being bullets by the owner,
Okay.
probably. No, I'm kidding, but yeah, I've heard the stories of it in other places. I've not heard of anything like that locally happening, and I don't think that to me. I mean, give me a break. That's just
Yeah.
whoever's on the deed, whoever pays the rent, bought the house. You can't just have someone show up and be like, "Hey, you went to Disney World for a week. I moved my family, and we're here now. Keep paying that mortgage." But nah, I don't think so.
No, there is some weird stuff like that. Like, cause I know my brother, he had like a townhome and then
Hmm.
they moved, but he kept the townhome and he was like renting it out and he
Okay.
rented it out to this family and they were like, they just didn't pay the rent or whatever. And so then he's like, he had to go over and you have to physically like put a notice on the door. You have to nail it to the door. It's like part of the whole procedure. And you
Right.
have to tell them you have 30 days to leave and you have to give them that written notice on the door.
Right.
It has to be documented. There's all these like really like it's just interesting like that people could take advantage of the law like that and just
Hmm.
because if you're not paying your rent, you really shouldn't have a right to live there. To me, that doesn't really make sense. I understand, hardships happen and things like that,
Yeah.
and so landlords, you give a little bit of leeway with somebody, but there's people too that repeatedly do this and they just
Yeah.
go from house to house and just squat and I don't know. It's do you ever see that movie Slums of Beverly Hills?
I have not seen that one. No.
Oh, it's like kind of an indie movie, but it's kind of interesting.
Okay.
It's like this guy, he's like a single dad. It's Alan Arkin and
Okay.
Natasha Leone, I think. And they
Hmm.
just and it's kind of like this kind of a family where they just go from apartment building to apartment building and he'll grab the family and be like, "Kids, we got to go."
We
And they'll
got.
just leave in the middle of the night and they'll just go to like another apartment building because they catch him and they say, you owe us like 6 months rent, you got to
Right.
pay up, yada yada, and then they'll just move the family and I don't know. It was like I think that was the first time I had heard of stuff like that, but I think it's actually very common.
I guess so. I know I've heard stories about it. I don't know anyone directly. I'm trying to think. I have friends that do have quite a lot of rental properties, and I guess they've told some stories of people that they've had difficulties with. But um, yeah, I don't know. I've this is the fourth house I've owned. I've rented two or three, then I had apartments before I had gotten married, before kids and everything. So I don't know. I guess I was just raised in the mindset of, if you agree to do something, agree to pay to do something, you do it. And if you can't, well then yeah, you don't have the right of just saying, hey, I'm just gonna keep that car and I'm not gonna pay for it anymore. And thanks,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
It's like
House.
common sense. You're talking. I mean, this is like the shit we send to each other all the time. It's just the world's going kind of crazy right now. Like just with some basic things that you and I grew up with, like, oh, of course, don't steal and things like, things like
Right.
this are being like challenged and stuff. And I don't know, it's an interesting time to be
Yeah,
alive, I guess I would say.
it
Sure, it was
is.
an interesting time to be alive during World War II and the Great Depression and some other events too. But I feel like we are living in a very odd time that is either going to be like the catalyst for totally changing the way that the world is, or we're going to look back on this time and go, God, that was a weird time, back in 2020, 2024, all those.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, it's I think what's different about it now from like our parents' generation or our grandparents' generation is there was an accepted truth. Whether it was real or not is a different
Mhm.
conversation, but at least there was an accepted truth that there's certain things that are just how they work. Now
Right.
we've gotten a time in society where, yeah, you can almost make up whatever you want and then
You
just say,
can
well,
debate anything. You can debate if the world is round. It could be flat.
it's
There's
it's
flat
not
earthers. That is a
round.
thing.
Chuck, it is flat. Come on. Have you
Yeah.
not ever taken a boat over the edge of the earth? I've done it. It's a blast. You
Yeah.
circle right back to the other side. It's wonderful.
Like
It's
Splash
like
Mountain, right? Like it just
yes, it's
whoosh.
like it's like teleportation, except you just go off the flat earth and come around the other side. So it's a wonder of evolution and
That's what
creation
I
and
need to do. I need
growth.
to have a flat earther on my podcast just to make everybody, just to totally lose my follow. I had a guy today, he told me he unfollowed me because I had Ted Nugent on. I was like, this is the second time he's been on the show. Did you miss the first one? Like, he might be on a third time, so it's like it's a good time that you're jumping ship. So I don't know.
Ted
It's
Nugent must have been
interesting.
a colorful guest. Ted is he's lived
Oh
quite the life.
God, he's an amazing guest. I mean, I
Yeah.
understand why people don't like him. I
Mm,
totally get that. But wouldn't you just like not watch that episode? Like literally gonna unfollow me because now you think I'm a bad person
right.
for having this person. I mean, to me, that's the whole point of a podcast is to have people from different walks of life.
Yep.
You and I are probably similar walks of life, even though different parts of the country or whatever. But
Mhm.
like having people like Ted Nugent, I'm not. I didn't grow up in the Michigan or wherever he grew up. I
Right.
mean, I had people from all over the world, which I think is really cool. I mean, I had like
Mhm.
guys from like Sweden, like these rock that are in rock bands and stuff. And it's like
Mhm.
I'm more interested in learning about Sweden or wherever they're from than
Right.
the music, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something you said for that. Well, again, I think we're in back to the time of, of history we currently find ourselves. It's just so polarizing. It's like
Everything is polarizing. This book that
everything.
you're trying to promote, people could be mad because it's about the military, it's about America. Like you're not supposed to be a pro America, you're supposed to hate America. I mean, there's like people could get mad at this book, especially if it becomes successful. Then there'll be a lot of people coming out of the woodwork.
Right. Well, yeah, I have a president in there. I have a president that's created his own uh team to go hunt down a bad organization. And I mean, that's not fair. Shouldn't that organization get to do what they want? I mean, why would the mean president send people to go kill other people? I mean, my goodness. So,
Yeah. The boy was it President Collins? Was that his name in the book?
yeah.
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 So who is he based off? I mean, I haven't gotten all the way through, so but I just was wondering, was that based off a certain president or was it just
So
totally made up?
it was made up completely. There's some characteristics for actually a friend of mine, and I kind of did it off. I I wrote the Body Man, the first book during the Trump administration, and that again extremely polarized country for sure, and just the way Trump handled the presidency. I wanted to then have a character in this book that was almost like the antithesis of Trump. I wanted to have in this the president, President Collins. He basically his code name for the Secret Service is Preacher because he's just this. Southern Baptist, straight laced, been married to the same woman for years, has a bunch of kids. I had a part in the book originally that I ended up taking out just for brevity and stuff, but one of the conversations was they were telling, he was asking one of the guys, what do you guys think of me here in the White House? And they're like, sir, yeah, they call you like the parking cone. You serve a purpose, you sit there, but you're the most mundane, boring thing that doesn't do it. You're just
Oh, I miss those
nothing.
days when politics. That's my slogan, is like make politics boring again. Because I
Yeah,
used to hate politics; it was so boring. But I miss those days because
right.
everyone got along, and it was like we just talked music and sports and.
I know. And,
Ah,
and so to liven it up a little bit at the end of the book, and I won't give it away because you haven't read it. No one, it's out now, so not many people have read it yet. I want the president to come out of his shell a little bit. So him and the body man, Nick Jordan, they start off in the Oval Office and they move out to the South Portico. Um, I want the president to kind of reveal a story that shows that he can kind of like, can let his hair down a little bit. So he tells a story that quite surprise, just a personal thing that occurred that quite surprises the body man. Of course, then he wants a story from the body man. The body man has a pretty good, humdinger of how he started, made a call to start a big war basically, and so there's a good story there. But yeah, it was kind of one of those moments of just kind of give Preacher a chance to say, maybe Preacher's done a few things in his life that are interesting, and he's not as super boring as he might seem during the rest of the book. So
yeah, I've learned that doing the podcast. Like, there's very few people that I've had on here, anyways, that are boring. Like, almost every human is interesting. If you get them on a podcast, you get them to relax a little, open
right.
up, and they start talking about just literally anything. To me, like, I'm interested in someone who's I mean, I'm not a hunter like Ted Nugent, but
Hmm.
listening to Ted Nugent talk about hunting and how passionate he is about it, I mean, it makes you want to try hunting maybe, or at least
Right.
be interested in him talking about it, you know?
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that, like one thing, because I've definitely grown up with folks that hunt, and I've hunted some myself. Not a lot, but I have hunted. Um, the the preconceived notion plenty of people have is, well, hunters are just these butchers that are just trophy hunters. It's like there are trophy hunters out there that want an elephant or a big cat or whatever, but the vast majority of hunters that are out there, they eat what they get. When it comes to deer, yeah, they might have a deer head
Yeah.
mounted on their wall, but guess what? You don't eat the eyes, you don't eat the deer tongue or the face or anything. So the rest of the deer meat, they harvest and they use. And I've had friends that have been hunters their entire life, and I had one growing up or in college. Then after college, I went down to his folks' house, and they had a large hunting land, peanut farm really, but they used part of it for a hunting preserve too. Um, and they whatever they killed, they ate. And
Yeah.
what's funny enough was we were having dinner the first night I was there, and of course they were serving venison, serving deer. Um, his mother who cooked it would not eat deer. She wouldn't eat Bambi. So the
Hmm.
boys all ate it. She made herself something else, but I thought that was kind of interesting that the boys would eat the deer they killed, and I mean, literally fresh because they got it, I think, the day before. So it was
Yeah, no,
pretty
that's
interesting.
interesting because I know Ted Nugent, he does a bunch of hunting and he donates a lot of the meat that he hunts to the homeless shelters. It's
Yeah,
like people, and then people hate him, and I'm just like, all right, I don't know. Like, I got to post some clips from that episode because I just think, and some of the things he did say, like, I didn't agree with and I thought were kind of offensive. But I mean,
hmm
I think deep down, I don't think he's as bad as people make him out to be. But
yeah,
speaking of meat, I wanted to ask you too about the carnivore diet. You did that.
yes.
How you said that you had great results. I think you did it for 30 days. You slept better. And
I did it
what else?
closer to 2 months.
Oh, 2 months. Wow.
Pretty strict. Yeah, January and February. Lost a bunch of weight quick for sure, or quick in the sense of like within 6 8 weeks. Um, yeah, I slept good. I'm still sleeping good. I mentally though I couldn't get to the point where I thought doing this long term is super healthy. I got over the cravings. Like sugar craving takes you about 4 days. And mainly the sugar craving symptom is headaches. That's what you normally see with like kind of like you're
Withdrawal?
detoxing. Yeah, you're withdrawing, you're having detoxing from having if you regularly have sugar in your diet. And I didn't have a ton before then, but I steady stream of sugar every day. So you go from having I don't know, we'll just say I had 100 grams of sugar a day or 70 grams of sugar a day, and all of a sudden one, for months, basically. That was pretty, that your body kind of fights you at first. But yeah, I think starting in March, around the end of February, early March, I decided to put some vegetables into the diet. So I started putting diet, and then I just eventually back to eating normal, but still keeping track of stuff, still watching what I eat, still watching, mainly more turn it into a caloric deficit type thing where, okay, how many calories do I need to have to maintain? So if I go under that, I, in theory, would lose weight as long as I'm staying active and working out, which I'm doing. So, yeah, I got to about 25-pound loss, and then I kind of started last 6 weeks or so. Is kind of like I go up a pound or two, down a couple, down three, down up. So I'm kind of maintaining the same baseline. So I'm going to have to shock the system probably in another month or so, and either go back radical on something or change things up, because I still got about 15 pounds to hit my target. And then when I hit my target, I want to maintain it. That's the other thing. So I didn't want to just diet, crash course, go really strict for a while, and then cool, I hit my number, and hey, look, there's a Big Mac. Hey, there's pizza. Hey, I didn't
All
want to
right.
just go right back to how I was eating. So yeah, it's a work in progress. I'm pleased with my results so far. A friend stayed this weekend. We went to the U.S. Open. A couple friends were down, and as soon as I opened the front door to welcome to the house, is like, dude, you've lost weight. I can see it in your face. And I'm like, well, I wish it was everywhere. I was feeling it, like my gut, but yeah, I know I've lost some weight. So that was a
Yeah.
compliment.
Seriously though, like the gut thing, what is it like? I'm working so hard. I'm doing 2 workouts a day. I'm not doing carnivore, but I'm eating pretty healthy. I'm eating like 50%
Hmm.
of my calories are protein. There's like just this little bit of belly weight. I just cannot, it will not go away. It's so freaking frustrating. I've thought about trying carnivore just to see if that would
See if that.
kill that.
I don't think it will. I don't think Carnivore will do that for you. I think that's a hard one, and I don't know the answer to that. I think part of it is our metabolism, our age. I'm sure there is some way to get rid of it, but I haven't cracked that code because I still have a little bit in my stomach, a little more than a little bit that I'm like, okay, this has got to go. I've everything else is doing well, but I think that's kind of the last like bastion for guys of what the body holds on to. It's like, okay, I'll lose it here, here, and there, but this gut, you earned this gut after all those years of being stupid and eating like crap. And guess what? This is going to remind you of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep trying. I'm trying to get down to 15% body fat. I'm down to like, I'm in the 19s. So
Okay, that's
I'm very
impressive.
close. And if I get down to 15, I feel like most of that will be gone. And then I
Yeah,
might try to go down to like 10 or 12. I don't think you want to go down below 10. I think
I
it's
don't
like
think so.
actually like dangerous, I think. But
Right.
yeah. So
Yeah. For there were several things like I like no alcohol, and I didn't have a problem that I was drinking alcohol a lot, but I'd have if I grill out, I'd have a beer or whatever. But I found a lot of times drink half a beer and dump the rest. I'd have it while I was cooking out in the back deck, and then I'd come sit down and eat, and it would sit there, and I'd just pour it out at the end. But I just went zero alcohol until middle or end of April. I went to a Braves game with my kids and some family down in Georgia, and my cousin was just like, want a margarita, and I'm like, I haven't had alcohol in 4 months, and it was good. I enjoyed it, but I was like, okay, well, that's my treat for a little while. And then I had a golf trip in Pinehurst, actually, with friends, yearly golf trip in May, and they had given me a hard time earlier in the year because I said, well, I don't know if I'm drinking because drinking definitely happens in copious amounts sometimes on the golf trip. And I had told the guys, I don't know if I'm drinking this year. I'm kind of going dry for a while. And they're like, you're drinking on this trip, and I was like, well, if you're challenging me, then I definitely won't drink ever again because I'm of the mindset of you throw the gauntlet down, I will do it just to spite you. But and I was like, okay, I had a drink in April. I guess I'll have a couple with the guys, but I kept it very extremely moderate. So
really, see
yeah.
I don't know what that's like. I feel like it's really hard for me to. I take that back. I mean, I think it used to be a lot harder, especially
Hmm.
with the guys or if and then once you start, it's like hard to just like go, okay, I'm just gonna have like two or three when you're hanging out with the guys and everyone else
Yeah.
is drinking, and then for you to just cut off, it's very tough. I notice for now though, like that I get older. Well, I'm not drinking right now either, actually, but like when I
Hmm.
did more recently, it was like it's usually just like me and my girlfriend. Like the last cheat meal I had. I went out for pasta and we split a bottle of wine. So I had like, what is
Hmm.
that, like 2.5 glass of wine or something? And that
Yeah.
was like perfect. I felt so
Yeah.
great. It was so amazing. Came back, watched TV, and like that was it, you know? Like, whereas back in the day,
Hmm.
it would be like, okay, we're drinking. Okay, okay, we had our wine. Okay, now let's go to the next bar and we'll get another drink.
Yeah.
And then we'll go to another bar and we'll just keep drinking until we just get like almost like, you know, you're just like full. Like you literally just can't even drink. And it's like the
Yeah.
older I get, like the less desirable that sounds, you know? Like I
Yep.
do miss, I would love to have just a glass of wine, but other than that, I don't really miss alcohol. I don't miss, especially like multiple drinks, that feeling that goes along with that.
Hmm.
Even like the feeling of while you're drinking it and you're buzzed or whatever, like I don't miss that at all. Like I feel so good eating healthy and exercising. I just want to keep this going forever.
Yep. And that's a good. And that's you've made positive changes and you've accepted. And it's this is where the changes happen. They happen
Yes,
between
you're right.
right in your head. It's not it's not the physical stuff that's hard. It's you have to train yourself. And so like for alcohol, for me, I never had a big problem. I think when I went through my separation and divorce for a while, I kind of used it as a crutch. And I'd never been a big drinker, but you know, I drank more regular at that point. But I also part of what happened with January 1st is a lot of times in January I like to test myself. Okay, go a month, go January without drinking. And at the end of January, so February 1st, seriously ask yourself, can you go another month or do you want to drink? And if my answer is I want to drink, then I can't have a drink. But if my answer is, yeah, I go another month, and I'm like, maybe I'll have something in a few days, maybe I won't. So that's kind of common that I do that anyways. Just this year, I decided to extend it out. I said, and I was thinking I might just go the year without drinking. And again, I might not have another drink for months. I don't have to, and that's the cool thing. I don't miss it. I don't feel like it's necessary. There, like I said, when I'm grilling out on a hot day, there is something to me about having a cold beer. It sets the mood for just grilling out, standing there in front of the Blackstone or the gas grill, whatever I'm doing that day. Made some actually. So with my friends here, they picked them up. They were great. Made jalapeno poppers wrapped in bacon.
I saw
Um,
those. Those looked amazing. I mean, people follow you on Instagram. They look
oh
good.
man. I need them again, but I don't need them because I'm sure they weren't very good for me. But
Well, is that
man,
the other thing? Or do you moderate like your cheat meals or whatever? Or like,
yes, yeah,
okay,
I moderate all of it. So I didn't have pizza for 3 months, and now I'll have pizza, but I don't have pizza very often. Or I'll make even sometimes for lunch. I buy these. They're net zero carb wraps, basically. So it's got I don't know like 8 carbs, but it's got 8 grams of fiber. So the net effect on your body supposedly is 0 grams of carbs. So I'll make a couple of those and just put a little sauce, little cheese, some pepperoni, and so it's mainly a mini like wrap kind of pizza, but to me, it kind of tastes very similar to pizza. So that'll kind of help, like, okay, I don't need to have pizza for a little while because, I had some wraps. So yeah, just a way of kind of like, but I'm mainly just trying to reprocess the way I think about food and not make it like, okay, you got to binge on something or okay, you got to have all this sugar. Like I took the kids to see Inside Out 2 last Thursday and the cousins. So I had me and 4 kids at Inside Out 2. And I'm like, you know, I'm getting a popcorn. I am not coming all the way here and being like, "Oh, I'll just sit here and chew on air." It's like, no, no. So, made sure my niece had a bunch of it too. It sat on her lap, not on mine. So I just grab it every now and then and grab some more. But, yeah, definitely. And you got to live life too. You can be really strict, and there's nothing wrong with being really strict. But if you have the mental fortitude to have a treat every now and then, and
yeah,
hopefully you enjoy what you're eating when you're not having treats. That's the other thing.
right. Yeah,
And that's
that's
one of the
true.
things with carnivore, to circle back to that, part of why I didn't stick with it long term too, is I could see I was like eggs. I had eggs a bunch for a while, and then I just had to stop having eggs because then I was just making myself eat an egg, and I was just like, ugh, an egg for lunch again today. And so that's the tricky thing with carnivore because it's
Right.
so limited and so restrictive. I don't do as well versus if I can have just a few extra other things, I handle it better.
Yeah, that's like Jordan Peterson's daughter, Michaela Peterson, because she has arthritis. Is that how you say it?
Arthritis, okay.
And so she had, I mean, it was just she was on all these pills and all this stuff. She had all these issues, and then she said she went like beyond. What does she call her? It's called the lion diet. It's like
Hmm.
beyond carnivore. Like you only eat ruminant, I believe, animals. Is I mean, basically she eats a steak every meal. Like it's
Every
crazy.
meal.
Like you see her in interviews and she's talking about it and she's like, "Yeah, I eat steak for breakfast, a steak for lunch, a steak for
Mm,
dinner." I'm like, "Oh my God, that is like I thought carnivore was tough. The lion, look up
right.
the lion diet. That is
The
even
lion
taking it
diet.
to the
Okay.
next level." Like, but I
No
mean,
thanks.
yeah, you think about it. I mean, for her, it made sense because if not, she's in all this pain with this
Yeah.
joint pain. So for whatever
Yep.
reason, and I'm not a doctor, so I don't understand why. Maybe it's a placebo effect. I don't know, but for whatever reason, this works for her. So
Yeah.
more power to you. But yeah, I mean, if you don't have, you're not doing it for medical reasons or whatever. I mean, yeah, why not have a beer every now and then or whatever? I'm doing this
Yeah.
thing. All right, now 75 hard though, and it's like 75 days, 2 workouts a day. You got to read 10 pages a day. You got to drink a gallon of water, no cheat
Okay.
meals, no alcohol. And it's intense. And then this is my second time started. I had to start over because I got sick and I couldn't work out.
Okay.
I was like, I don't feel good. So now I'm doing
Yeah.
I'm like, I think I'm on like day 45. So I think I got like
Okay.
another 30 to
You,
go.
you're
It's
deep
crazy.
into the commitment then. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really hard. Like it's weird. Like I did P90X. I remember that. I don't know if you remember that one. That was
Hmm.
like a workout program back, and I actually had Tony Horton on the show, which was really cool.
Okay. That's
But I
pretty
remember
cool.
kind of, I almost did it kind of more as like as a joke because when I moved to Scottsdale, like I'd go out and people, there was just all these like douchebag guys, like these just like these guys that like work out, but then they do Jaeger shots and stuff, and they're like fake
Right.
tan and like, and I just kind of looked at them and I was like, God, this is so weird. I was like, and so I did this like photo shoot and I got kind of ripped and I was kind of like
Hmm.
mocking them. But then I was like, I actually kind of like this like fitness and like working out and feeling good.
Yep.
So, and now I've kind of gotten into it, but I like having those kinds of like programs. Like P90X is like, okay, you do this for 30 days, and you do this, and then that,
Hmm.
it's like when they tell me what to do, I probably would have been really good in the army because when someone just tells you what to do and then you just follow the rules, I'm like, yeah, I can do that. That's
You're able to do it.
yeah. If I'm left to my own devices, then it's like, yeah, I'm getting like, Panda Express or ordering pizza or like,
Yep.
probably eating something shitty. So I'm changing my habits, and
Right.
it is really hard. But I feel like to me, I feel like this one is like when I finish 75 hard, I might have like a cheat meal or something, but I don't want to go back to
You
like,
don't want
okay,
to flip.
let me
Yeah.
just, I want to keep these habits like, yeah, again, my trainers tell me like, oh, you can have like one cheat meal a week and it won't
Right.
throw off your progress. And
Yeah.
like multiple trainers have told me that. So I think that's
Yep.
pretty legit. But
Hmm.
I mean, as long as you're not going like crazy, like you're not eating like two
Right.
entire large pizzas and like up, 3 pitchers of beer or something. But so yeah, I don't know.
Well,
It's interesting, but it's fun to challenge yourself. It's just similar to what you did, and
yeah.
and then you finish that challenge, and then you're like you feel so much better, and you're like, and it's a mental thing because then you're like you have the confidence, and then you think you can keep going, and
Well, I'm
yeah.
talking to you today on a fast day. So what I started doing it's over 2 months now. And I just picked Monday because we're in summer schedule now. So I do have my kids every other week for a full week. But in the school schedule, I normally follow, I don't have my kids on Mondays and Tuesdays. So I'd read a lot of, I'd been reading a lot about healthy stuff since last fall. But when I started the carnivore, the other thing I started looking into was the not intermittent fasting, but just legit like fasting for a period of time. So I was reading about the health benefits of it and stuff. And so I started, I guess it was sometime in April. I really probably should have put it on the calendar the first time I tried it, but I basically started on a Monday fast of just what I was originally going to do is just maybe a little bone broth, maybe a cup of tea with nothing in it, just like a green tea or something, but just water. And so the first couple weeks I did have some bone broth, which it was fine, but it didn't really like satiate any appetite or any. It didn't really seem to help. So I just kind of dropped doing that. And I've stuck to for about 2 months now. Just basically it's a water fast. And I'll have regular meal and maybe even a little snack Sunday night. And then I don't eat anything until Tuesdays around 9:30 in the morning or so. So I go a full like 36 hours of just water.
Yeah, I've done that too. And you can lose weight, and I think there's a lot of health benefits. Like I had this
Yeah.
doctor on my show, Dr. Thomas Seyfried, and
Okay.
people should look into that his research or watch that episode. But
Hmm.
yeah, he's done all these experiments, or not experiments. I don't know what you call it. Like I mean, he's treated people with
Hmm.
keto diet and fasting
Yeah.
to cure cancer. I mean, because
Yeah.
he sees cancer as a metabolic disease, and
Right.
so if you starve the cancer cell, you don't give it sugar, a
Yes.
cancer cell will die. And
Right.
he's had results. Like he had this one guy had like an inoperable brain tumor. So there was nothing they could do. Doctors basically like, there's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
You have 6 months to live.
Right.
He started doing the keto diet and the not intermittent fasting. It's like legit, like fasting once a week or 72 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's lived like, I don't know, like 6 years later, he's
Mhm.
still kicking. So, I mean, there's
Yep.
a lot of evidence for that. I feel like a lot of the things we know about nutrition are wrong. Like what we're being told is wrong. It's really
Mhm.
interesting when you go down the rabbit hole.
Well, when
Or
you go down that
just
rabbit
promoting
hole, like it's,
misinformation, I guess.
you
I don't
know,
know.
we're of the same general generation time frame, and I I knew one kid I think that had a peanut allergy in my elementary school when I was going to
Yeah.
school. Is one kid that had an now, not to say that was the only kid, but that was the only kid I was aware of that had an allergy. You didn't see there was like for at least for adolescents growing up in the 80s, the obesity rate for kids was hovering, I think, close to 0%, extremely small. You didn't see obese kids very often. Well, complete opposite now. What, one out of every 36 kids or something is diagnosed on the autism spectrum, and childhood obesity is something like 30%. I'm sure I'm getting these statistics wrong, so someone will destroy us in the comments. But basically, all those things have skyrocketed. Like allergies, I know a ton of people that have food allergies, lots of people, especially younger than me. I didn't know anyone growing up. So it's like, okay, so something fundamentally has changed, whether it's environmental, dietary, whatever. Something has changed in the past like 40 years or so, 30 or 40 years. And my my gut on it and what I've read and all that is probably mainly dietary, where we've just manipulated our food so much. I know now, I mean, I look at the ingredients now, especially this year since I've started the diet of I constantly look. I even have this app on my phone that you can just scan the code and it will kind of break everything down for you. And it will tell you good, bad. And, again, it's the app. Is it correct or not? Maybe not, but at
Is that
least
the
tell you.
Yucca app?
This one is might be, hold on. Let me,
Because
uh,
I discovered that the other day, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. It actually tells you
yes,
it's
it
the
is Yucca.
greatest
Yeah.
app, right? I mean,
Yep.
again, you got to take it with a grain of salt because it's probably not 100% accurate for everything, but it will tell you like, okay, 100%. This is like if you do scan an apple, it'll be like, it's an apple, you're fine. But if you scan
Right.
like some like processed protein bar or something, it will tell you, okay, these ingredients are not the greatest, and these ones are actually like, might cause cancer, or these are dangerous.
Yep.
I highly recommend that app. I'd love to have the person who created it
You
on my
should have.
show to discuss
You
it, but
should absolutely.
it makes things a lot easier, especially and it works well for like other things, like things that you don't think of, like shampoos
You're not
and
gonna be able to see
soaps
it well
and
on the
things.
screen because of that. But gummy clusters. We scan the gummy cluster things. Nerd gummy clusters.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's probably awful.
4 out of 100 because of sugar additives.
Right. It's just
Everything in
garbage.
it.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, now again, if
chemicals.
you really love those and but you got just know that, okay, I'm eating bad shit right now, so maybe
Right.
like only eat it once a week, or
Right.
I mean, I guess if you just don't care, like I'm gonna, you want to die, you don't care if you die like early death, so you can eat your nerd cluster, like I don't know. I guess that's like it, but I think that the problem is I think people are being lied to right now, and
Mhm.
we're not shining a light on this. Like we're talking about, I mean, just turn on the news and see what the fuck the news is talking about, because they're talking about some crazy bullshit, most of it.
Well, take
Nobody's
that
talking
one
about this.
take that 1 degree further. I agree with you. Turn on the news and then watch the commercials and
Oh,
see
that's
who
true.
is paying the commercials.
Yeah, that's why they're not dissing nerd clusters
No.
and Pfizer products and all these other
Yes,
products that are sponsoring the news that you're watching.
I mean, you're not going to have them do a negative advertise or negative story on something that's paying their advertising dollars because, and that's and it's not conspiratorial. News is a business. It's just
Sure.
writing books is a business. Whatever it might be, unless there's something out there that's just completely free, and most of the time you get what you pay for in life. So if something's free, it's
Right.
probably a good chance it's not worth having anyways. But when it comes to like getting your news source, well, if you're getting it from someone that is a for-profit organization, who's paying for them? Because you can't tell me that doesn't have any, oh, they're
Right.
completely unbiased. They would just it's like, okay, so if there was something extremely horrible found about Pfizer, uh they'd report it 100% accurately if Pfizer's also paying their advertising. Well, Pfizer's going to pull their advertising. So I'm sure at some
Well,
point, I don't know if
Pfizer
someone,
did pay the biggest fine in U.S. history. I don't know if that was ever reported on the mainstream news. Maybe at the end, or like they had to probably report it because it was big news. But at the time, but I don't remember hearing about that. I don't remember anyone talking about it.
was it
But if
for
you,
Fen or
I forget what it was for. I mean, they've been in a lot of these pharmaceutical companies have been in a lot of lawsuits because I think what
billions,
they do is
billions of dollars?
they look at this stuff, they look at you as kind of like, collateral damage or whatever the term you
Yeah.
want to use, as like, okay, well, we pay out this many lawsuits, but then for this many people, they can, they'll still pay for it and they'll still take it. We'll make this much money, and then we got to take out the money for the lawsuits. Okay, yeah, let's make the drug. It still makes sense, which
Yes.
is like horrible to me. I mean, I think at the very least, like they should like heavily warn people of the products of things that could happen, even if it's
Right.
a very small percentage. People should know, and then let people decide if they want to take that risk. I'm not saying ban every pharmaceutical. I mean, I think that's absurd as well, because for some
Mhm.
people, and then the problem is like some of these cancer drugs or whatever, they're like, oh well, it's not approved by the FDA. Well, who gives a shit? Like, let people decide if this is a
Right.
risky thing. This might be the only chance they have. So it's kind of a
Well, the,
backward system. I saw this clip today. I mentioned this on the other episode I just did with Vinny Tortorich. But have you ever seen Patrick David Bess? Have you ever seen his show or seen him on podcast?
yes. Yes,
Yeah,
I
so
have.
there was a clip of him and he's talking about how like if you own a hotel, you want to get that hotel to be at like 90% occupancy or higher,
Mhm.
right? You want to fill all
Right.
the rooms. Otherwise, you're not making a profit. You're not making a profit if the hotel's at like 30%
Right.
occupancy. So then you take that business model and you apply that to like a hospital,
Hmm.
right? So like you want the hospital to be at 95%, you want it to be full so that you're making money.
Yes.
So, and then you apply that to like, mainstream media and all these other pharmaceutical companies, like they're
Doctors.
profiting. What's
Yeah.
that?
Doctors.
Yeah, they're all profiting off
Yeah.
chaos and problems and
Right. Right.
sickness and disease and I mean, I don't know the answer. I don't know what the solution is, but I think it's something that people need to be aware of. Like my brother was saying that he went to the doctor when they had their baby, and the doctor kept trying to like upsell them, like almost like you're at like
Hmm.
like a Applebee's or something, and the waitress is trying to sell you some fajita poppers and stuff to go with your
Right.
meal, like an appetizer. It's like, yeah, that makes sense if you're at a restaurant, they want to try to sell you more food. I mean, I feel like when you're in a medical facility, like they should give you the standard of care that you
That. Yeah.
need, and it should be the bare minimum. Like they should,
Right.
surgery and pills should be the last thing. I mean, yes, sometimes you come in with a gunshot wound, yeah, we need to get sewed up, okay, but
Hmm.
I mean, it's like, oh, your stomach hurts, okay, well, let's cut it open and then we'll it's like you got to go through the procedures. I feel like
Right.
a lot of things, not everything, but a lot of issues that we have as Americans and probably people in the world, a lot of diseases and things can be either completely cured or at least alleviated or helped with diet and exercise and sunshine.
Yes.
Those three things. I mean,
Well, and there's a lot of stuff that's in our food that is banned in the EU and banned in other countries, and some of those ingredients are banned in those countries because they flat out say, well, those are known carcinogenics. They're known to cause cancer,
right.
but yet we allow them in some degree in our food supply. And you're taking away my nerd gummies now. Thank you. So, but yeah, no, it's
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, it's like you just, as long, I feel like educating people and just giving them the knowledge and then let them make their own choices. Again, I don't think banning things. So then what? Because you're going to ban nerd gummies and then you're going to have nerd gummies on the black market. I mean, that's like ridiculous, right? But at least let people know,
right.
have some sort of food safety. I had this guy on who worked, he actually worked on the FDA, and a real nice guy. But I
Mhm.
just think that and he even said, he's like, yeah, we're not doing a very good job. We didn't do a very good job. He worked for both. So you can't say, oh, it's a political, he worked for Obama and Bush. So he was on both sides. Like it
Gotcha.
wasn't like Republicans, Democrat. Neither one of them has the answer to this problem. But
Yeah.
I think, I got cut off cause he had to go or whatever. But I was saying at the end of it, how I think that some sort of like food visibility, food safety, like basically like the Yucca app, like, something like that, where we have that on the label, like, hey, this food has scored like a 60 or 70, it's pretty safe. Here's some things you might want to be concerned about. I think that would be extremely valuable. I mean, it's great that they have the nutritional info at the back and the list of ingredients, but most of if there's a bunch of ingredients, like I don't freaking know, especially like soaps and things like that. I don't know
Right.
what these things are. That's why I love the yucca thing. Will tell you like, oh, this is fine, this is fine. Like, because some
Hmm.
chemicals are fine. Some chemicals are
Yes.
very mild.
Some are inerts. They don't bother.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Some of the
absolutely.
stuff is fine, but some of it, it's
Right.
like, ooh, you shouldn't have this. And it's like, I don't have time to freaking go down. I mean, I probably do have more time than most people, but I mean, I think the average American is not knowledgeable enough to know what every ingredient does and whether it's safe and have if there's
Right.
any adverse effects. I mean, so having some sort of like, I mean, I think that app is amazing. I feel it's fun. It's funny because I feel like that app did what the government should have done, but
What? Right.
and it's
Well,
free too.
private sector. The private sector stepped in. It saw a need or a want from health conscious people, and
Uh,
someone created something to say, okay, we can go
yeah.
in. But well, you were talking just like going back to the average. Well, if you because my kids and I would watch TV, not really network TV, but Paramount Plus or something, and there'd be an ad in there, and most of the ads would be for some sort of drug, and then at the end, it does. I'll give them credit. Pfizer ads and stuff, they do list, hey, you need this drug for your acne, and in some cases, in some minor cases, then this can cause arrhythmia and da 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 da, and a list of
Do they
things. And
have to? I think they have to list the side
they have
effects.
to list it, but they still sell the drug. Well, why do they still sell the drug? Well, I'm sure a doctor is probably telling, well, this is the drug that will help you. Well, there are some risks. Oh, well, there's risks, but and
Well,
now,
then
I'm not
don't you
saying
love
that.
how they'll give you the side effects, but they'll show people like hugging and laughing, like,
Yeah, yep.
oh,
They
it
didn't have the
might
heart
cause
attack.
massive diarrhea. Oh, yeah, give me a hug there, Junior. And you're just like, that's kind of a weird time to like have people embracing and laughing as you're talking about massive diarrhea. But okay, yeah.
Love is love whenever it happens, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's a weird world that we live. Like when
Yeah.
you start going down the rabbit hole, like because I think I was just, I was kind of just living life and just doing my thing. I think what happened to me, at least, I can't speak for other people, but like
Mhm.
2020 just woke me up where I was like,
Yeah.
what is going on? And then you start
Right.
going like, oh wait, it's not just like 2020 that's weird. Like the world has just been weird. We've just been asleep and we didn't pay
Right.
attention because things were whatever, it's kind of fine or whatever. Then you start learning about all this shit. You start going to the rabbit holes and
Mhm.
I think I don't know. I'm probably labeled as I'm probably on shadow ban lists and people think I'm a far right conspiracy QAnon whatever. But
You're the
I mean some of
shaman.
this, yeah. I mean it is interesting, and you do see a lot of bullshit on the internet too. There's a
Yeah.
lot of misinformation, disinformation, fake news. I'm usually pretty good at spotting bullshit. I'm sure I've been fooled sometimes. There was one thing that was like it was like a thing that the high school that I grew up at, and it was
Mhm.
a guy that, and he usually will show videos. He didn't show a video that he just said, "I'm getting reports of this," and I shared that,
Okay.
and then somebody debunked it and said, "Oh, this actually not what happened." I was like, "Ah, shit! I shouldn't have shared that guy's stupid
The
thing," but I
one.
was just
Right,
like
right.
so panicked because it was my high school, you
'Cause it
know.
was your high school, yeah.
So, but yeah, I
What
mean, it is interesting learning about all this stuff, and I feel like to me, I don't think like food is something that is really to me that's not political at all. I feel like that's
yeah.
something that everybody should be concerned about, but it seems like nobody's really talking about it.
Well, and you gotta think too, go back, not too many generations ago, people really did grow their own food. Maybe you were you had the cows and you had the milk. Okay, well then you bartered with your neighbor who had corn and you
Right.
traded off on stuff. And so your food was, you didn't have, and that's one thing that technology and the ability for airplanes and just the global life we now have is it changed the fundamental dynamics of how we eat and what we eat and how things are processed. And then I think a lot of it too, actually, if you read into it, um, a lot of stuff happened with all the chemicals and nerve agents and stuff they created during World War One. Like vast amount of these things, just not even cauldrons, massive tanks of all these chemicals. Well, when the war ends, what did they do with it? Well, they started using the chemicals for other different things. They started using some that turn into pesticides or whatever. And they did, yes. I don't have all it figured out, but if you start actually going down, and it's not a rabbit hole, there's factual stuff out there that what they did with a lot of these things is it got integrated into everyday life stuff. And then And maybe that's where, the stuff that's leached into the grounds. I saw this thing recently in last several months, and it was, I'm sure it's been debunked, but they gave a lot of statistics that made sense. Is that the average person eats, I think within a year, enough um, foods that have micro traces of plastic in it, like from fish or from whatever, that it'd be enough to make like a credit card every year or whatever time period. There's enough plastics in the food we eat that, but they're so microscopic, it's not like you're like, oh man, I chewed on something and, you tasted it or whatever. It's just, it's at almost more of a cellular kind of a small level. So,
Yeah, that's really scary because then they
yeah,
say like they call it forever chemicals.
forever.
These
Yeah,
chemicals that get in your body, and it's like, how do you get rid of it? Like, how do you get rid of a microscopic piece of plastic that
I
it's in,
don't know.
like in your bloodstream, it's in your cells. Like,
Right.
how do you get it scares the shit out of me. And it's like I don't even if I tried to be as healthy as I could starting right now, it's like the damage has
The
been done.
damage is
I'm
done,
sure I've
probably.
got
Yeah.
tons of that shit in my bloodstream. And I think
Right.
there's a meme too. It's like the different generations, like looking at like microplastics, lead, and then what's the other one? What's the shit that was on the ceilings?
Oh,
Uh,
asbestos. Yeah.
asbestos, lead, and microplastics. Like we've all got every generation had something. Our thing is
Yeah.
microplastics. So
We're
yeah, I
all
don't.
gonna die of something, Chuck.
We are gonna. Yeah, we are. Yeah. I mean, my thing is too is more like with the carnivore diet and stuff like that. I feel like I I'm looking at health long term, but also like I'm looking at I think I just told you I had Vinny Tortorich on he's not
Yep.
really full carnivore, he's more keto diet,
Hmm.
but he was talking about how, like if you look at him, he's telling me all these different doctors and things that are carnivore diet or keto and like how healthy they are and how good they look. And then he
Hmm.
said there's a bunch of these like doctors that are overweight and they're out of shape, and then they're going to try to tell you what to do that well, they look unhealthy on the outside, but they're healthy on the inside. But you look
Yeah.
healthy on the outside, but you're unhealthy on the
On
inside.
the
He's like,
inside, right.
how does that make sense? And it's
Yeah.
like, I agree. Like, cause I mean, I'm losing weight. I'm not doing keto or carnivore, but I'm just eating mostly
Hmm.
like real foods. I'm eating like oatmeal and fruit and
Hmm.
protein shakes and chicken breasts and steak. I do
Yep.
eat red meat, and I'm feeling great, and I'm losing weight, and I feel healthy, and so
Hmm.
I don't know. I haven't had my blood work done, but I feel like it's probably going to come out pretty good when I do because um, I feel healthy. I mean, I feel better than I have in years.
Yeah. And that's what I kind of switched to after the carnivore. I went more to like a keto or Atkins, and I've fallen off it a little bit here and there. I've gone through these phases in the last month. I've had a lot of stuff going on where I've just the excuse I can make to myself is I've just let it slide for a week, but I feel the effects of it too. You can tell when, all of a sudden I'll go and have, you know, uh, popcorn doesn't really bother me. I don't also have it that much, but if I have a bunch of sugar, what I can tell is if I go, because I'll have sugar and I've had sugar for the last couple months, but I try to keep it in very small doses. Like I went 3 months without ever having it in my coffee, and I'm like, I do miss having a little sweetness in the coffee. So where I used to do a couple teaspoons or a lot of sugar, I'll go do like a third of a teaspoon of sugar. It doesn't really make it sweet, but it takes a little bit of that edge off of you do. It's a little sweet, minor. So stuff like that where I'll start putting stuff back in. But what's concerned me is you start going back in and then it's easy to then go all in within, a few months. So that's where I've been really careful about what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's amazing that you did carnivore. That's so strict for 2 months. Like, so did you put like at least like cream in your coffee or butter, or what did you do? Something like that?
So I did, yes. So I did carnivore, but I did carnivore with dairy. So because the carnivore that I was following basically was like anything that comes from an animal.
Hmm.
So you could have eggs, you could have dairy products, or you could have meat, whatever the meat might be. And that was, and again, there's so many variations of it. It's just what I went with. Um, Problem with that though is some people go, "Oh, cool," so they'll just start drinking glasses of milk. 8-ounce glass of milk has something like 22 grams of sugar in it, I think, or something. Something really high for now. It's natural sugar. It's not, processed white sugar or high fructose corn syrup, whatever. So your body does handle it different, but it's still. So I didn't do any milk. What I did was some half and half, but I would try to limit it. So I was probably getting like 3 or 4 grams of sugar of half and half in coffee each day or whatever. And definitely tried to watch the carbs. Again, I had the golf trip in May, and then I fell off pretty good for that week, but I felt it. I also saw my weight. I gained like 3 pounds in a week. So it took a couple weeks of going back, busting my butt to drop the 3 pounds again. It's like, I don't like seesawing. That's not fun. So
It's the
is it really
worst.
worth going off the reservation for 4 days? So
What did you work out, or what do you do for do you
yeah,
exercise?
I work out a couple days a week. And then the other thing that I'm really faithful about is I try to do a minimum of around 12,000 steps a day, which is not actually that crazy. It amounts to about 4 miles. But I'm like
It's time
religious.
consuming though, right? Because like that's what I'll do sometimes is I'll do like a 45-minute walk.
Yeah,
I'll count that as one of my workouts. I don't know if that's 75 hard approved or not, but it works for me. I do
right.
it occasionally, but a 45-minute walk is like, man, it's like, I mean, even if I bring a podcast, I'm like, oh, I want to sit down. I'm getting
Yeah.
tired of walking.
I don't though. So to me, I started doing it years ago, and it was almost therapeutic. And I end up doing working a lot of ideas on the books while I'm walking. So I multitask.
Mm,
So I'll grab my phone, like my phone memo on my iPhone, and it gets backed up every night, so I don't have to worry about like necessarily losing anything. That's where I do a lot of my book ideas. So to me, it's like probably because I also, I work from home. I'm financial analyst by day, and I work from home. So getting out and getting the walk in, I do one early in the morning, and then during the day, I might step out for a few minutes. I don't leave the house really, but I might step out in the yard for a little bit, and then in the evenings, I'll like tonight. I got done working, and I knew I had podcasts to do for promotion for Breach of Trust, but the one good way to get my steps in one day a week is to go mow the lawn. Mow the full lawn. I got about a half acre, and if I mow the lawn, I'm looking at like 10,000 steps. So I'll just go mow the lawn after work, and then I'm like, well, I'm getting my share in today for sure. So
that's nice. So
that and
what
that's a
is
harder
your
thing to do when you're fasting too. So no food, go mow the lawn, and it
uh
was hot as I kept coming in every about 15, 20 minutes and just drinking a bunch of water because I could feel like, man, it's hot. Oh
well,
man,
how do you get so you I mean you gotta obviously you gotta do the exercise, you gotta stick to the diet, you got your day job, you got kids. How do you find time to write the book? Like did you set up a schedule where you write every day um and work on it every day? Because like I'm assuming it's not just like writing, like right, you got to do like
yeah.
research and like and then promotion and there's a lot of things that go with writing a book. Is it like I'm going to work on the book an hour a day, or what is the schedule you have set up for that?
It depends. So I had a 2 year gap between my first book coming out and The Body Man coming out and Breach of Trust actually getting released was over 2 years, 2.5 years. So because I had that gap, I was able to spend writing time whenever that was, kind of getting ahead on some projects. So that helps me in times like now where I'm doing promotion or doing the business side because the other thing that happened was when the Body Man came out, I had a small publisher who did the groundwork for the book. I did a lot of promotion, and I still will continue to do. And most authors, even if they have a big publisher, do promotion. But they did all the design stuff and the book cover and the editing and all. I didn't have to do any of that. So after after they went out of business and I got the rights back and I started putting the books out under, I had to create my own entity, my own publishing company, basically. Well, it's all on me. I do all of it now. But what I do is I outsource. So what I kind of like harp on people is stick in your lane or stay in your lane. If you're a writer, and you start your own publishing imprint, you're an indie publisher as well. Maybe you'll have to do everything on your own because you don't have the resources. That does happen, but try to outsource whatever you can, especially what you're not that good at. So I knew I had no business designing a book cover. So I found, I kind of went through the uh, friends I had in the publishing industry and said, "Hey, who do you use? And can you share with me who you have?" And I just narrowed down who I wanted to use. And phenomenal person. So book cover, okay, it's a cost, but it's not something I have to actually do much effort on. Besides, yay or nay, I'm happy with what you're doing. Editing,
How
same
much does a
thing.
book cover cost?
Depends on where you find, who you find. The range is anywhere from like $300 up to some people spend over 1,000. on book
Oh, okay.
covers.
That's not that bad. I mean, because that's a
So
huge, to me, that is a huge, I know they say don't judge a book by its cover, but
you
let's be
have
honest,
to.
like, that's a huge piece of selling it.
You can have a crappy book that has misspellings and everything wrong with it, but the book cover could sell a bunch of copies because people go, well, dang, that's a good looking cover.
Yeah.
Now, the secret on that then is you'll probably get one book sold because people will remember of I could get through the first chapter and they'll put negative reviews out there and you can only try that gimmick one time.
And then you
So
change your name and then you do it again.
yeah, I have my Chuck Shute backup name ready for the next book if
What
I,
was, because
it's
didn't
just
Stephen King, he didn't he write a book? What was his Richard? He had like a pseudonym, Richard
I
something.
I
I
don't
gotta look that
remember if
up.
he had a pseudonym. I'm not aware of it. So
Yeah, it's like one or two of his books was under a different name, and I don't know if it's because he
interesting.
didn't like it or if he was just trying to. He thought that they were different than his other materials or something. I
Well,
don't,
and there's a lot of things that could be going on with that. So, obviously, at least, maybe early on he did some stuff on his own, but he was there before really
Richard
Rizzo.
Bachman, that's
Richard
his
Bachman.
pen name.
Okay.
Oh, it looks like he had a couple other ones too. John Swithin and Beryl Evans. Beryl?
He might have done it just because it was different and he wanted to put it out there. But the other thing that could have
Yeah.
happened is he could be under contract where, hey, we're going to deliver one book a year and we only want one King book a year. And maybe he writes 4 books and maybe he says, okay, I'll get a different publisher for this other series and I'll use a different name. I'll use a different pen name. That, and I'm just guessing at that.
Running
That,
Man. Do you remember that movie that was written? That was
yeah, The
written
Running
by him,
Man.
but it was
Yes.
under the name Richard Bachman. Rage, Thinner. The book Thinner. That was later turned into a movie. That was under Richard Bachman. Yeah, he did a bunch of them under. That's interesting.
Interesting. Okay. I did
Yeah,
not know that. You're teaching me
yeah,
something tonight.
I
So
know. See, I love that. I don't know shit about authors and stuff like that, but I knew that. I knew that one. Yeah, because Stephen King is. I mean, that guy's so fascinating. Like, how does he write so many books and how do you be that successful? I mean, these Jack Carrs and Stephen Kings, like, I mean, I'm reading your book. I haven't finished it. I read the other one, The Ransom Daughter, was good. I mean,
mhm,
these are you're writing good books. I'm like, why? And I've read Jack Carr too because I had him on the show, and I've read both your. I don't look at Jack Carr's and go, oh my god, this is like 100 times better than
right.
your. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like that's what's so hard. And like, I listen to a lot of podcasts too, and I go, I don't think my podcast is that much worse than some of these other podcasts, but it's
Right.
just like for whatever reason.
Rogan's got $100 million deal. What's going
Yeah,
on?
why
Why
I don't
why don't
have
I?
I want to claim racism, but I'm white, so that I guess I have to throw that out the window.
Reverse
Oh,
discrimination going on or something. I
but
don't know.
Rogan's white, damn it. Oh, it's because he's short.
Yeah.
He gets maybe it's some sort of thing. He's a short guy, right? Like maybe
I don't
people
know how
feel
tall. I
sorry.
don't think he's extremely tall, but
Yeah.
what's so to answer the question, kind of, there's no answer. That's the problem. Is why does one person have it happen? I will say this about the publishing industry is the last word in that phrase, industry. So it's a business.
Yeah.
So they bring people on and they don't bring people on with the with not the expectation. They don't bring people on because they wrote the best book in the world. They bring someone on because they think they can make money on that book. And
Yeah.
what you find, and it's not like a knock at Jack or any of the other authors out there, but if they have they have an author they bring on that has a background that can sell books,
No, I think
that
that's
opens
exactly
up a lot of
right.
doors.
Yeah, because he's a Navy SEAL, and Joe Rogan is famous from uh,
Fear
news
Factor,
radio and
news
MMA and
radio, yeah,
Fear Factor, and
yep,
then he started and that's what's so frustrating is like these people that are famous already, they start a podcast. Like David Duchovny, who I had on the show as a guest because he was promoting his music or whatever. It was awesome. I was like, oh, this is so cool. He's like, he writes books. Now he started a podcast. I'm like, okay, so now I'm competing with David Duchovny,
yeah,
not to mention Joe Rogan, Conan O'Brien, all these other people. It's just
right,
it's hard. So
yeah.
that's why I'm thinking about like, expanding and doing other things like writing a book because
Mhm.
now it's like I'm not just a
Oh, come step on my toes now. Thanks,
right.
Chuck. I
Well, yeah, because
appreciate that.
aren't you starting a podcast? You have a podcast now too, right?
I do have a podcast, A
So
Tale of
see,
Two Scribes under the Spear Talk Network.
yeah.
Thank you
So
for
you're
promoting it.
an author podcaster, and I want to. Right now, I'm just a podcaster. I guess I could say podcaster, YouTuber, but I want to be an author
Yeah.
or some. I got to do something else. I don't know. I try to
Well,
think of ideas, but
you have to diversify yourself now. So that's the crazy thing is y- y- the the numbers on like so some of the numbers on writing, and again these numbers do fluctuate, but the general rule of what I've read multiple times in the last several years was that On average, a self-published book will sell 50 copies. Now, the numbers are skewed
Overall, or
because
like a month, or like
50 total in its life.
shit.
Now, I know people that sell thousands of copies. I sold good amount of copies, nowhere a lot more than 50. 50 times whatever number, a lot of big number. But what that's skewed though, because you might have a million people upload, or not millions, probably bad, but say 100,000 people upload a book that have no right to upload that book. I mean, it's not been edited. The cover was designed in Microsoft Paint, and just, they just dump a book onto Amazon because, I want to be a writer, I want to be an author. And I don't fault, I mean, I get that. I understand why people's desire to do that, but that book might sell 2 copies. They buy one and their mom buys one. Well, that goes into the numbers of how many books were sold from that thing. So it's skewed in a way because there's such a volume out there, but the numbers are the numbers. 50 is, and for traditionally published books. So this is books that have a publisher. The number is only 500. I do the business side of it. Besides writing now, I know how much money you have to make to pay back your cover, pay back your editor, do all these things. You sell 500 books, you're not getting very far. You sell 50, you've lost a lot of money if you hire people to do, things for you. Now, if you did the book, I've talked about this on other podcasts and stuff. If I had a full week off my 9 to 5 job, I could, in theory, write a very absolute crap, at least small novel, short novel in 1 week. I could go on Canva. I could create a cover. It would look like absolute crap. I could use software I already have on my computer to do an edit, and I could upload that to Amazon at the end of the week. And I could say, I'm Eric Bishop. I'm a published author. Yeah, okay. It's not gonna sell, or it shouldn't sell books. It shouldn't, for what I did. But so the means to entry is very, very easy. Um, but to be successful in this is very, very hard. Especially to make it, like, I have a day job. I can't quit my day job yet. I know exactly how many books I have to sell a month before I can quit my day job. A, I won't say what the number is, and B, it's not a small number. So
How
that's
how long until you can retire though? Because then once you're retired, then you could focus on this full time, right?
when I die.
What? Really?
When
You
I
can't,
die.
you don't have a 401k or something, or
I do, but no, I don't know. I'm 47 now. We'll see. We'll see when I get to that point. I mean, I guess in theory I could retire at 62, but I couldn't live off the retirement, the Social Security at 62. I'd have to have other things, and I do have other things invested. But I also have kids, still have young kids. I
is
still
it
have that.
going in the right direction though in terms of book sales? Like,
Yes,
let's say you started with a, I don't know, just throw a number out here. You're selling 10 a month, and then 5 years later, you're selling 20 a month. And then, like, I mean, because that's the thing when I look at with my podcast numbers, like, I try to see, like, is it going in the right
right.
direction? And I mean,
Yeah,
it kind of it was for a while. And then now I feel like I'm not necessarily losing followers or my subscribers is going up, but it's just everything's like slowed down. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And so
Well,
I don't know.
there's so many podcasts now. And same with books. You find the same. It's similar in that regard, as there's so much. So you have to set yourself apart. Or for me, what I think was, I had a really good, well received book, The Body Man, came out, and it sold really well. But I had a 2.5 year gap before, well, less than two before Ransom Daughter came out. But before, it wasn't a full length novel. I had a 2.5 year gap before the next novel came out. That's where it's difficult, because if someone finds The Body Man and they enjoy the book, well, there's nothing else out there for them to buy. Well, they're only buying one. They might tell someone else about it, sure, but you need to have multiple things out there for people, and then keep them coming. So, like in the next year, I've got 2 coming out this year. Breach of Trust comes out this year. I'm also planning on putting out it's not a follow-up to Ransom Daughter, but it's back to that series. I'm starting a series with those characters from the Omega Group, and the one coming out at the end of the year is Babylon Will Rise. So I'll have 2 series. So I'll have the Body Man series, and I'll have the Omega Group series. And then next year I plan on doing 2 more books. I can't keep that going, but I can do that because I was able to, with the 2 year gap with publishing, I was able to kind of get ahead on writing some stuff. I'll probably then fall into a one a year. I'll probably just go back and forth once a year between the different series is unless something changes and I'm able to put out 2 a year. I won't sacrifice quality for quantity, but quantity is what you have to have both, but you have to have quantity in order to actually make decent not even a living maybe, but a decent side gig for writing. And some people make I know people that make a lot of money writing and they're self-published, but more time than not, I know people that, they make a little money doing it, but it's a challenge.
What is it? Another field that would like relate to this kind of writing. I mean, because I obviously like Jack Carr, he has a podcast and then he has all this merch and cool shit that he sells and stuff. And
Yeah.
his obviously his books are taken off anyways. And then the one is a TV show. But is
Yeah.
there other things that you could do to supplement the book? I mean, you've got the one podcast, but is there other things
Mhm.
too that you think that would help um, make you money and then promote the book? Because that's kind of what I'm trying to do with my podcast. I'm like, what else can
Mhm.
I do? Else can I sell that will bring people in to be a fan of me or my product and then lead it to the podcast?
I don't know the answer to that yet. I'm working on that, put it that way. Yeah, it's hard. And anything, I was joking about it with someone recently, they call it starving artists for a reason. Art type jobs, whatever it might be, whether you draw pictures or you paint or you create songs, it's hard to make a living. And there's really, and authors are in that mix as well. There's really, really, really talented people that make very little money doing it. It's just it's a challenge. So, and with me, fortunately, I have a very good paying 9 to 5 job. So that's not going anywhere. My boss has been super encouraging. He even said to me early on, "So how long am I going to have you?" And I'm like, "Oh, you'll have me for a while, unless something pops." That's to pop. It's out of my control. I'll work as hard as I can. I'll put as many feelers out there. I'll market the hell out of breach of trust. But at some point, I had to acknowledge a couple years ago that hey, you can do the best you can, keep learning, but you can't force something to happen. And that's what has to happen is someone has to like step in and there's this myth that well, if you just get a movie deal, that's what takes care of people. I know a bunch of authors that have gotten movie deals or contract offers for movies and it wasn't life-changing money. It wasn't
No, it's like 40, some it's like 40,000 or something, right?
I've seen less than that even for some. And then I also know of an author who she has come out with I think her third book's coming out this year and she has signed 5 or 6 seven-figure deals in the last 4 years.
Wow.
So there's these extremes where you have, and you talk about Jack. So Jack's that's an anomaly, and Jack's a great guy. I know him, but to have a successful podcast and have a merch line and have Chris Pratt doing to turn your book into a series and all that stuff. A, it happens, and that should give anyone that's in this gig encouragement that it can happen. But B, it's an anomaly. So if you think you're going to be the next Jack Carr, you're probably going to be pretty disappointed. And what I always tell people is just be the best version of yourself. Whatever success means for you, and maybe success means for you, you have to be the next Jack Carr. Okay, then, man, try really hard. But I'm telling you, you're not going to be it, especially if you're trying to be it. I think it's really hard to force success like that. But you can't achieve any of it if you don't take the first steps, which is write the book. And after you've written the book, have people read it, send it to an agent, have it professionally edited, do these steps that if you don't follow those steps, you're guaranteed not to succeed.
Right. It's fun trying though, isn't it? Like I get frustrated
Yes.
all the time. I want to quit. I mean, not obviously as an author, but as a podcaster. I mean, and it's just
Right.
my goal is to, I would love to be the next Joe Rogan. Like I think it's probably pretty unrealistic, but I think like 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. I think that is a realistic goal for me. Like
Hmm.
I see a lot of people with 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I don't think I'm that much different than they are. And
Yeah.
so I'm trying to figure out the formula and what I need to do. I might need to change my channel. I might need to do smaller videos or whatever, but I
Hmm.
feel like I'm going to get there. I mean, I'm trying my hardest. And maybe for you, maybe, yeah, maybe it's not being the next Jack Carr, but maybe it's being successful enough that you could quit your day job and be an
Yeah.
author full time. I think that's realistic.
It's 100. I'll do it. It's just a matter of I don't not forcing the time frame on that. And
Right.
I do know from authors that except for ignore the anomalies that have made the big seven-figure deals and all that. If you look at the ones that are currently successful, make the bestseller list, with their books or whatever, most of them didn't get to the position of quitting their day job till they had like 4 to 6 books out. And part of that is because what ends up happening is, you're growing a brand, you're growing readership, and then your fifth book, say, comes out and you get some media attention that people had never heard of you go, oh, look, the Body Man series, and they buy the fifth Body Man book. Well, they like it so much they go back and they buy the first four, at that point. Well, then that one sale becomes 5 sales. So your income has just gone up fivefold, basically.
Right.
That's how you then and what ends up happening then is that normally starts snowballing where you start growing because that person that bought 5 books might tell someone and then they buy a book. Oh, and that turns into five. And
You basically go viral as an author.
yeah, that can happen too as well.
I mean, that's what, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think could happen with my podcast. Like, I think it just could be one clip or one episode or something
Right.
that's what I hope is it blows up because, and then people like this, somebody told me this one time who was like a fan of my show, which I was like, oh, that's so nice that you like the show. And he's like, I think people are going to discover you one day and then they're going to go back and like watch all
Mm,
the old episodes. I'm like,
right.
that would be amazing because
That
I
would be
put
it.
so much work and time and effort into every
Yeah.
episode and some of them get out, you put it out and it gets like 50 views and you're like, oh man, that's like so
Right.
depressing. But then I will say like it was interesting when I started YouTube and because I started the podcast with just audio, but then I did YouTube and I didn't get monetized on YouTube for like, oh, I don't know. It took like a year and a half or
Mm,
something. And then, so then they said, now they're saying, okay, now we're going to pay you for every view that, not every view. It's like whatever, like every 100 views, you get so much or whatever. So all
mhm.
these videos that I had made, like, 2 years ago were getting money. I mean, it wasn't a lot. It's like,
Yeah.
it's sometimes like pennies, but it's like money is coming in for work that I did 2 years
two
ago. And I
years
was like,
ago.
that
Yeah.
that is like a nice feeling to know, okay, well, I'm getting
Mm,
something like, I'm being acknowledged. Like even if it's not a lot, it
right.
was something. And I was like, that is a good feeling. So I think the same thing can happen with you. That sounds
Yeah.
exactly how it would go as an author that you spent all this time and energy writing these books and it's not getting a huge response right out the gate, but you don't know later down the line you might
Hmm.
sell more copies of those and then you're like, oh, okay, now
Good.
it's vindicated. You
Well,
hope.
and it's because the Body Man came out in November of 21, and the publisher ended up going out of business last year in 2023 towards the end of the year, and I got the rights back. And it took me about a month of I knew it was happening, so
Did you have to
I
buy them back or did they just revert back to you?
no, they reverted back to me because it was basically liquidated, like they shut down the
Oh.
business, so I didn't have to pay for them. So I just got the rights back. So at that point, that's when I had the decision of okay, well, I have a book that sold well, but I don't know if it sold well enough to actually get picked up by a big publisher or grab an agent. So what do you do with it? And so I just decided I had already put out Ransom Daughter, or I was putting out Ransom Daughter when I found out because it took about 6 months from when I was told they were going out of business till they actually went out of business. So that gave me prep time. Um, but that's when I had to decide, okay, what am I going to do with it? And so I came out with a second edition. I trimmed it down, got a new cover design, did stuff like that. But it's something that then it's been exciting to have it under my own brand because then I don't have to share any of the revenue. Because when it was with the publisher, I got the smallest cut. I got the biggest cut was from ebooks. That was where I got a larger percentage. But for like paperbacks and hardcover, it was ridiculously small amount of money. Even if I sold hundreds of those, it was nothing to even talk about. Well, now without having the publisher, I don't give away a dime of that. I keep all of it. Now I have to also incur the cost, so I pay for a new cover. That's coming out of my pocket. But the Body Man, the second edition that came out in January, I had to pay it off in 2 weeks. First 2 weeks of sales, that it was then broke even. So anything after that, and it didn't sell
Wow.
crazy, but everything after that's gravy.
Yeah.
Which in this type of thing, you people, oh, what do? You go on vacation? No, what you typically do is put that into the next prep for the next book.
Sure.
And so the payday probably might happen in book 4 or 5, where okay, I'm not having to just dump a lot of the revenue into the future books, or pay for the things you have to pay for. But if you told me tomorrow, hey, guess what? You're never going to sell another book, so you're done writing, right? I'd say no, I don't write for that. I want that. Yes, I want to be successful doing that, but I write because that's why I was put on planet Earth. It would be really nice if I could get paid to do that as well. But I love telling the stories, and the stories are I just before we came on tonight, I've had a couple advanced copies. Oh, here's an advanced copy. So one of the advanced copies that I got, which has the little, not for resale thing, I go through them and check them and do one final edit and all that. So I've had a few, but before we came on tonight, I actually opened up, and this is the first copy for Breach of Trust, first printed copy. I
That
haven't
is
had.
a cool cover too. It might be
Yes,
offensive to some people because there's like it's America and like we're supposed to hate America, but I like it.
down there, if they're clever enough to notice, you have the American flag here, and you have the Russian flag down there, and
Ooh,
the base is all cracked. Why is the base
Russia.
cracked?
Russia's
Russia, Russia.
Russia's bad. Wait, are we like it's weird. We're like back in the 80s. Remember the 80s? It was like everything
I
was like
remember Red
Russia was
Dawn.
bad.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I thought we were like friends, and then now it's like we're mad at Russia again or something. Can't we all just
Well,
get along?
I don't know if we can, because guess what? Peace doesn't make money.
Yeah, that's back
I
to
think
what
that's what it comes down
we were
to.
starting we started talking about at the beginning here. Yeah, it's just about
Yeah.
these companies, the military industrial complex. That's another one that profits off
Right.
problems, chaos, war. I mean, you make all these weapons, and then like there's this pressure to use them because
Yep.
there's a lot. I mean, you look at the budget of our country. It's like a lot of the money is going to the military, and not to
Mhm.
like the VA hospitals and stuff like that. I'm
Correct.
saying like designing weapons, and I mean,
Raytheon and Boeing and all these
yeah,
other, yeah.
these
Yeah.
contracts that are. And I don't know. And then like it's weird because I'm reading the Operation Paperclip right now. Have you read that book?
I know about the operation, but I've not read the book. No.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it's like because I'm like, oh my god, this is so evil what they did. For people who don't know, and I haven't read the whole book. I'm like halfway through, but
Hmm.
in World War II, the U.S. came in and saved all these like Nazi scientists from
Hmm.
being persecuted for being Nazis, and we took them and brought them to America, and we
Right.
said, hey, we're gonna come work for us now. And I mean,
Yep.
when you think about it, it's like so evil, but then when you hear the rationale, you're like, oh, well, okay, that kind of makes sense because they said like if we didn't do that, the Russians were going to do it. So then
Right.
the Russians have all these Nazis with all this crazy technology working for them. So
Yep.
it's almost like this competitive thing. So I mean, I don't know. It's like it's still not
Hydra and,
great, but
Captain America. Hydra and Captain America. You gotta.
yeah, I mean, it's like I mean, there's just so much stuff that goes on. Again, going back to the going down the rabbit holes and all this, like there's so much stuff that goes on in the shadows
Yeah.
that is just not talked about very much. That's
Right.
what I think is so interesting about podcasts now because uh people like me can talk about. I mean, I'm a lot of the stuff I'm hearing about and learning about is from
Mhm.
other podcasts and
Other
things and all
podcasts.
these
Yeah.
independent journalists that I find. And
Right.
when they don't have an agenda, I don't have an agenda. Okay. I don't, I mean, other than I guess I get paid for views on YouTube, which is like pennies, but most of the time,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to promote or sell you anything. And it's like
Hmm.
when I had Vinny Tortorich on, we're talking about keto diet and stuff. And like, it's like, you're trying to sell like real food. Like there's not a lot of profit in that. It's like, I just
Yeah.
want people to be happy and healthy. And that's what I'm trying to do for myself. And I'm trying to share that with everyone else. And also just knowledge
Hmm.
about what is going on and the corruption and evil shit in the world. And I feel like that's why I'm put on this earth is to kind of expose that and to try to help people, us band together, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I don't want division, the crazy
Right.
shit that's going on in the world. I mean, that's why like when I had you on for the year-end show, like I picked a very good mix of people. One of the
Mix.
people
Yeah.
didn't show up, but I tried to pick a mix of
You tried.
different people with
Right.
different backgrounds that have different
Hmm.
perspectives. And I mean, I
Yep.
think that's what's important right now in our country.
Yep.
Sorry, I just went down
No.
all over the place. Too much coffee for
Well,
me.
I think the things that unite us are much stronger and much more there than what we're led to believe. Everyone thinks we're so, it's such a divisive country. You're either Trump or you're Biden. If you're one or the other's the other's the enemy. And if you're for this social thing or you're against it. And if you're, I think majority of people in this country believe that everyone should get to live their life how they want to live it. No one should be messing with their stuff. But you also do have your rights to say, "Hey, I don't agree with that." I mean, there's people that would want to have you arrested if you don't agree with whatever the social thing is of the day. It's like they're not saying to have them, killed or thrown or taken out of the country. They're just saying, "I don't agree with that." Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's one of our fundamental rights in our documents that created our country is that you have the right to have an opinion. You have the right to disagree. You have the right to even say that. You just do
I
it
saw this.
respectfully.
Yeah, I saw this thing the other day, and it said it was like this pie chart. I don't know. I didn't like fact check it, so maybe it's total bullshit. But it said something like
Mhm.
40% of the generation thinks that if you misgender someone, it should be a crime. So I mean, there's just the younger generation is coming up. I mean, they scare me a little bit. Like, I mean, in the
Yes.
Palestine protesters that are, they want the very anti-Semitic things. I think I brought up last time you were here that, I mean, it
Yeah.
concerns me. It's
Yeah.
like, but I understand there's a whole thing going on with that Palestine and Israel thing. I mean, that's a whole
Right.
other conflict, and I don't have the answer or know the solution to that. But I mean, when you want to, like, you're talking about murdering Jewish Americans that have nothing to
Mhm.
do with what's going on over there. I mean,
Right.
that's not immediately, everyone is not going, what the hell, and up in arms about that. But we're
Mhm.
up in arms about the kicker on the Chiefs that gave a Catholic speech, or like, that was kind of bizarre to me. I'm going, wait, this is the thing that gets people riled up.
Yeah.
Not all the other shit that I'm seeing, that I'm like horrified, talking about killing Jews and chemicals in our food that's poisoning us, and wars that we're doing, and corruption. That stuff doesn't bother people.
Yeah.
But the Catholic guy giving a talk to Catholic school,
So
that was
Catholic
the thing that
school,
everyone
right.
was up in arms about. I don't know. It's interesting.
I think we're in the upside down. Most days, that's what I'm thinking. This has got to be the upside down. Yeah, I don't know this. The solution to that is, you live your life, you make the best choices you can make. You have to stay involved and know what's happening, but there's so much of that stuff that happens like in the media or that I'll hear a news story about, and I'm like, look, that's not part of my regular life. I don't know anyone around here that's having a struggle with that. So it's not that I don't
Right. Well, that's the fear,
empathize.
though. That's the fear. See, this is what's changed the shift in my perspective. You're exactly right. You nailed it right there. Because that was 2020 for us, for me. And I remember, actually, we were out of town at the time, but
Mhm,
that they looted our mall, which is like a mile and a half from my house. And there
mhm.
was an angry mob, and they just went through and just, broke shit and stole shit. And I mean, they were
Yeah,
just mad. And it was, I don't know what the reasoning behind stealing things. Somehow they justified it, and it's a mile and a half from my house. They could have
yeah.
easily decided, hey, let's go into the neighborhoods
Go in the
next.
neighborhood, yeah.
And I never owned a gun or anything like that. After that, I bought a gun because I'm
Mm,
like, I'm scared. If an angry mob comes to my house, I can't. I feel like I need to defend myself. The police was doing nothing, and
yeah.
so I think that's the thing. We're kind of at that breaking point where you're right. It's like most of the stuff doesn't really affect me. The stuff going on, the riots and the what do they call it in California? What are they when they steal, the looting, smash and
Like
grabs?
smash and grabs, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that doesn't affect me. But that's what I'm saying. I feel like if we continue down this path, it will affect us. And
True,
yeah, I
true.
just watched this
Yeah.
movie this weekend called. You ever see that movie Blackfish?
Never heard of that, no.
Oh, it's about SeaWorld and the killer whale. It's a really well done movie. Anyway, the
Okay,
person that
interesting. So
directed
like a
that,
documentary or
yeah, it's a documentary.
okay.
Yeah, check it out. It's really good. It's sad to see like what they do to killer whales and why they shouldn't be in
Mm,
captivity.
right.
But anyways, the person who directed this movie called The Grab, and it's all about all these countries coming in. You may have heard about this, like China's coming in and they've bought up all this farmland in the
Mhm.
U.S. and
They're buying
Russia's coming in.
buying land near military bases as
Yeah, near
well and
military bases.
sensitive
You're right.
information.
Yeah. Russia, China, and the Saudis, they bought a bunch of they were buying they were growing, like, I think wheat or alfalfa in Arizona. Here in Arizona, they bought a bunch of land in the desert and drained the aquifers, and all these farms nearby were like, hey, we can't get any water. And it
Hmm.
was going to these Saudis. And so because those countries are, they're worried about food and water for their people. And so
Right.
they're buying up other countries' food and water. And I mean, it's definitely an issue, and it's something that could, I mean, you see the food prices are already rising.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's another thing that it's like, I don't think people are paying attention. No one's talking about this. We're talking about the Chiefs kicker or, somebody's appearance on the Grammys, or, we're talking about all this
Right.
crazy bullshit, which some of that stuff is really interesting. But
Yeah.
I mean, this stuff is like, I feel like people need to know. I think that we're
Mhm.
kind of in a weird time in history. Like, again, I hope that this just passes and we look back and go, oh, that was a weird time. But I think some crazy shit's about to go down. And I can't tell you what that is, but I'm just
Right.
saying, like, I'm worried.
Well, and I think that's I agree with you first of all, and also I think COVID exposed that because COVID turned into this watershed moment, and then I think the expectation was okay, this will settle down quickly, and then everything will kind of go back to normal, and it hasn't. Everything's gone back to like even weirder each year. Each year, it's like, oh, geez, 2022 is over. Let's start 2023. Got through 2023. Oh, what's 2024? Oh, it's an election year, and you have two guys running that I mean, they're really old. One's even a little bit older than the other one, but they're really out of 325 million Americans, that's the top two we can pick. Uh, I don't care your political affiliation. You can't convince me of that, but,
Right.
and that's, so who knows what messed up stuff will happen the next couple
Well, and I
months
think
because,
the problem for me is that I feel like people on each side think that if their candidate wins, then life is just going to magically be good. Everything's going to be fixed and
right,
hunky dory, and I just don't think that's the case. I feel like we're still going to be super divided. The people that want this guy or the people that want that guy, they're not going to all of a sudden just go, "Oh, okay, well, I guess my candidate didn't win, so I'll just root for this guy or everything will
right.
be fine." Like, we're still very divided and people are very unhappy. So if like half the country is unhappy with the leader and the way the country is headed, and then they're just fighting each other, and then nothing gets done, and then they're suing each other, and in Congress. I mean, Congress is like, I mean, I just feel like it's a circus right now.
It's a
Like,
circus.
we're not focused on these problems. Like, you talk about the average American not talking about these issues, like this movie, The Grab, and these things that are going on.
Mhm.
I don't think our leaders are aware of these issues or concerned enough about these issues.
Because they're doing a smash and grab, probably. They're making the money they can make, and then they're going out of office when it gets really bad.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I had a guy on too about EMPs. Actually, an author, William Fortson or
Yeah.
something.
Yes.
Yeah, I had him on the show, and he was talking about EMPs and everything, and I was like, "How does like I didn't know much
One
about
second
that." Like,
after. 1 second
yeah,
after. Great, but great. And it,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
He,
so that's another thing that it's like, I don't know. It's just like you start learning about all this shit. It's like part of me wishes I just never learned about it. I just would have gone, just being a sports fan and like not watching the news and just
drinking
living my life.
beer, watching
Yeah,
some
yeah.
sports.
And now, but
Ignorant American 101.
yeah, it was fine. But now it's I feel too that just educating yourself in all these areas, like at least a little bit, especially
Hmm.
I feel like the nutrition and the health thing is
Yeah.
huge for me because I feel better. I mean, I'm more scared because of all the shit I'm learning about our
Right.
corruption, government, and all that. That stuff scares me. But the stuff about the health and nutrition, like when you're that's something you can control and you can
You
take
can,
control
yeah.
of it, and it'll actually help you feel better. And then mentally, you're just like, okay, like I feel pretty good. Like I done everything I could do on this day? Like, I just
Hmm.
had you're my second podcast today, and I feel like we're talking about really important issues, and I'm
Yeah.
sharing that with the world. I'm doing the best that I can.
Yeah.
Guy told me he unfollowed me because I had Ted Nugent on. So, it's one of those kind of days, but I think I might get to the point where it's like I tried to help society. I'm just going to
Hmm.
go live off the grid. I'm going to take care of myself and my family, and good luck to everyone else.
Well, you can be the best version of yourself that you can be. That's all you don't you have to you get to a point, at least for me, you get to a point in life where you realize you can only control so many things, and it's pretty minimal what you can actually control. And like I think you're on such a good path right now with that of your health is something that you have in your control. And there's nothing wrong with going to a doctor, nothing wrong with getting checkups. But guess what? When the doctor says, hey, your cholesterol's a little high, I think you should probably get this medicine. Okay, maybe I need that medicine, but is there more information? How, are you getting a kickback for the medicine? What's the side effects for the medicine? Could I naturally fix that by doing X, Y, or Z? And unfortunately, yeah, it seems like with a lot of primary cares doctors, you're not going to get the healthy way to do it. You're going to get the easy pill. And if that pill causes, if your dick doesn't work anymore, guess what? We got a pill that can fix that too. It's like, oh, okay. And if that causes an issue, we have another pill. And that again, it goes down to how
Yeah.
far down that path you want to go. I take when I get headaches, and I'm probably more frequent than I should, but I don't get them that often. But I'm a sissy for headaches, so I'll pop like 2 Advil. Yeah. Besides that, I take a multivitamin. Um, I take vitamin K and D, a couple other things, but I don't take anything. Anything that's prescription, any of that stuff. And not faulting people that do, but I'd rather find a healthy. If my blood pressure gets high, what's the healthy way to do it? I got sick. And it really came down to stress. I was in my mid 30s before I started writing. I think I started my midlife crisis early. And my wife, I was married at the time. My wife had stopped working. We are having a second child. And I think the stress of it all just got me. And I went through this spell for like 6 months where I went to the doctor, I don't know how many times, and they ran everything, everything under the sun under me. And the last time I went to the doctor, they're like, this is right. This doesn't look wrong. We don't think it's this. He said, I think you need anti-anxiety medicine. And he goes, I just can't. That's the only thing that kind of leads logically we're there. Everything else looks good. I think if you take this anti-anxiety medicine, then you'll be better. And I just said, I guess I'll die. And he was like, excuse me? I said, I'm not taking your fucking medicine. No, no way. No way. I said, how could I do it naturally? And he was, kind of almost like, wait, what? You're not agreeing with this. So I changed my lifestyle at that point. Not for long term because I started putting weight on after I got divorced and stuff. But I started eating better. I started exercising. I started walking a lot more. I started trying these things, and it took months of making changes where all of a sudden I didn't feel my heart palpitation. I didn't feel that, and I think it was stress. But if I had done the easy thing, I would have just taken a pill, which might or might not have caused or helped the problem, or might have caused another problem. I'm so glad I just told the doctor, no, no. And I never went back to that doctor. And I did go to a couple more primary cares for like regular checkups, but I haven't been to a checkup in several years because it's like I'm in tune now with my body. And I can go get blood work done just without getting to the doctor. I can get the blood work done through my insurance anyway. So it's like if I have a problem, if my arm gets cut and I'm bleeding really bad, well, I'm not the one to fix that. I go to a professional. But do I need to go to someone once a year that, kind of pokes and prods for 10 minutes, ask me some questions? Are you depressed? Are you sexually this? Are you this and that? I'm good. I'm good. I don't need to go talk to you. I don't need to go to your appointment. So if something's bothering me, I'll go take care of it. But if something's not, I think I know my body pretty well now. So I don't need your medicine.
Yeah. I
Brought
love
to
it.
you
Yeah.
by not Pfizer.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. No, that's how I feel too. I think it's just it not only goes with my health and diet and nutrition, all that, but I think just being more self-sufficient in general. Like I just want to be as independent as I
Yeah.
can, as not reliant on, the government, as not reliant on, I want to be off grid all eventually at
Right.
some point. Not right now, not like tomorrow, but like I'd like to get to that point where I'm growing my own food and all that
Yep.
just to be more self-sufficient. And then I would love to if people would, if they need help with that, I would love to help them with that. Maybe that's going to be my purpose on this earth, because maybe podcasting isn't it. I don't know. It seems like
You never know.
it's
Well,
starting to crash, or maybe that's the thing maybe that's why people will finally tune into my fucking podcast, because they're like, oh,
yeah,
this guy he got his shit together. Well,
he's
I
got
better
it
listen to
right.
him.
Well, you said you had William on the program, and the
Yeah.
1 second after
He
book.
loved me.
I'm sure he did, and the stats on that, and because my second or first completed no second completed novel had to do with an EMP attack. So I read his books, I read a bunch of other things. Again, nowhere near expert level, but enough to speak somewhat intelligently about it. And yeah, if our power grid ever went down for a long-term period and life as we currently know as we're talking on this technology and stuff, if that went away and went away for, an extended period of time, it's the stats are pretty consistent where it's like 90% of the population will be dead within a year.
Yeah.
20%
I
would
think that
die
too.
quickly because of lack of access to medicine that they're now, you've got people that for years have been on heart medicine or blood pressure
Right.
medicine and thinning and all that. And they, that stuff runs out in 30 days if it even lasts that long. And then those people die fast. People that are in, on a ventilator, they're dead immediately because power's out. Elderly people that require certain medicines, they die. So a percentage of the population dies really fast when life changes dramatically, and then all the other stuff the book talks about happens. And yeah, so the I don't think that's going to happen, but the more you can be self-sufficient, the more you can, just think again, part of it comes down to just think for yourself. Don't let people think for you. Don't let the media think for you or your cell phone or whatever. Use common sense, research what you can. But and that's what I try to do with the books. I try to put a blend of that. I try to put entertaining stuff in the books, but I try to put, legit stuff, legit concerns. And ultimately, I want people to be able to think for themselves. I want people to be entertained, but I want people to go, well, this is an interesting scenario. Is that possible? And maybe it's not possible, but maybe it's something you want to think about. Maybe it's something you want to be prepared for because nobody knows what's going to happen ultimately.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's a good book so far. I enjoyed what I've read of it so far, and it's getting rave reviews. Like you had like a bunch of these reviews from people. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen this many positive reviews of a book. So you must have sent it out to a lot of people that sent you back all these quotes at the beginning. It's really cool to see
Yeah.
that.
So what I did different in the past, the first couple books, I sent it to limited people and a lot of authors, and authors are really good at supporting authors. With breach of trust, I just wanted to go a different because my target audience, I'm not authors will buy my book. I'm sure of that, but I that's not going to be enough to generate even enough to probably pay for the cover or the edit. You need to have readers that read this book that like this book. And so for breach of trust, I wanted to get in the hands of some readers and see what they thought. And in the letter I had sent out to them, and I put a call out on I think on newsletter and my social media stuff. And I didn't really have. I'd said I wanted about a dozen, and I think I had about 16 or 17 people reach out. I actually had 14 people, I think, actually ask for a copy of the book. And all those people I took, some of them found little inconsistencies or something they suggested to change or maybe a punctuation. It hadn't yet been professionally edited, so I wanted their feedback before it went to the professional editor to polish it. But every response I got back, 13 out of, I think one didn't reply. So 13 out of 14 people replied back, loved the book. And I had said in there, write a blurb. A blurb is basically a very short synopsis of what you thought about the book. It could be just fantastic. It could be one word, but every single one of them sent one back. And I said, I'm going to put that in the book. So I put it on social media. And then I also decided I would put it in the front of the book so that people could read what everyday readers think about the book. And again, that doesn't mean everyone's going to agree with it, but um, it's not paid. It's just people that got a free ebook and they decided to read it and give me their feedback. And so definitely gave me that confidence that I I got the book out that I wanted to, the story I wanted to by getting that positive reinforcement for sure. So
Awesome. Well, it's going to be out by the time this episode airs because I think I'm putting this out tomorrow. And I think that's when the book comes out, right?
it is out on June 18th. The ebook, paperback, and hardcover are out. A secret to everyone. I actually pushed the trigger early, so they're actually out to buy right now. A couple people actually have. I saw some sales today. I'm like, ooh, someone saw that it's live. But it will be live by 12:01 tonight here in a couple hours from when we're filming this. And yeah, Breach of Trust is there. It'll also be um, I put The Body Man and Ransom Daughter out on Amazon Kindle Unlimited. So people that have those subscriptions can just read either book, and Breach of Trust will be out there as well. So I'm definitely hoping people that read The Body Man on Kindle Unlimited will then jump in and get Breach of Trust. But yeah, it'll be available for sale. I will also have signed copies available through my website that people can go. They're on order now. They'll be here in a couple weeks. So just sell some signed copies. And yeah, I hope people spread the word and tell others, and hopefully it does well.
Yeah, and then you have Supreme Justice is coming out next summer, and then
Yep.
a Troy Evans. So you're going to start that series up for the winter of 2025. So you got some
Yes.
future projects already lined up.
Yep, and Babylon Will Rise will be out this year, the end of this year, which is a follow-up to Omega Group. And then there's another project we could talk offline, but I can't say on the air yet. But there's another project not just involving me that is coming out hopefully later this year that we're working on now. That's a cool collaboration project. So yeah, I'm
Okay.
staying busy.
That's good. Awesome. Well, appreciate you doing the show, and good luck with the book. And
Yeah, thanks.
definitely don't forget about me if you become the next
I
Jack.
will, I will not forget about you. People can go to my website, ericpbishop.com, or if they go to Amazon and type in The Body Man or Breach of Trust, I'll pop up. But yeah,
I'll put
thank
your
you.
website in the show notes. Make it real easy for them. They just click it from their phone.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Chuck. Thanks for all the support. It means a lot.
Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.